Today we're going to be working on the house block for our block of the for our block of the month. So we're going to have our background fabric, and it's cut a little bigger than it needs to be. So we got a little extra room, but we want to keep in mind that we have a little extra, plus we need to have our seam allowance. So we're going to work towards the middle. And the first thing we need to do is just fold our background in half and just finger crease is fine. You don't need to get the iron out for that. Okay, so we know where the middle is. So here's our center. We have all of our pieces. So the first thing we need to do is take the paper off of all of our pieces. And we can also refer to our pattern. And let me go ahead and get the pattern. Okay, so let me turn the house so it faces you a little better. I'll see if I can do this sideways. And I have the instructions here. Now, your house may face opposite, excuse me, with your windows on this side and your door over here, different fabrics and things, so it won't be exact. But we want to make sure we peel all the paper off. I find that people have the tendency to leave the paper on and place their pieces down to get them placed. And then they have to pick them all back up to get the paper off, so it kind of defeats the purpose. And the other more important thing is sometimes we forget. We get everything in place and we forget to take the paper off. And this will be the only time, because this is Steamer Seam Light 2, it would be the only time that you could actually fuse it with your iron. And if this paper is still back here, the glue will be gone and you'll have to do it over. And then you'll have to talk to Mary Lou on that, because this is part of a kit. So make a note for yourself. Be sure to remove your paper before you set your pieces down. Plus, it's sticky, so it sticks down where the paper just moves around. So I'm going to put these two pieces down, and I'm going to look top and bottom, left and right, and see where I want to be. So I'm going to turn it just for a minute. And I think I'm going to go just a little bit to the right. I mean left, my other right. Yeah, let me put that back. And I want to carefully match everything up so it's matched up along the bottom. And then you can go ahead and put your smaller pieces on. Oh, I have a little thread hanging. There we go. Trying to do this sideways. Here we go. And I'm keeping my eye along this bottom here. Here we go. And we got 2 chimneys. And you might get a little piece like this here, or you might have a whole chimney here because the die was one whole piece. But you also got, I believe you got 2 pieces for the chimney, and I'm just going to put it right over that. Or you could just cut it off. So let me show you if you want to cut it off. I'm just going to lift it up and just keep my scissors in line with the roof and just cut that off. And I've got my chimney just a tad on top of my roof. And that way I can, okay, so let's look at this. So if I put my chimney, oh, I got a little wrinkle there. Had my hands in your way. There we go. If I put my chimney a little bit on top of the roof, that means I'm going to stitch all the way around my chimney. If I would rather stitch all the way around my roof, which I think I'd like to do, I'm going to line up my chimney with the roof fabric. And I think I would rather have I'd rather go around my house the whole way rather than have the chimney go all the way around. I think that might accent the chimney more than you might want to. But it's personal preference. And you can place your chimneys in a little ways if that's what you'd like to do. Oh, it keeps coming off and I let go of it and it snaps back again. There we go. Oh, I can see on the camera that I was peeking through there a little bit. I'll have to twirl it around and see how I'm doing. So you want to make it so you don't see the background in between the pieces. So pardon my arms for a minute. And if you have a little spot where it might show a little, when you go by with your stitches, that'll cover it up. You'll be okay. You just don't want a big gaping spot. So try to get as close as you can without getting too fiddly. This is just a house, not your prom dress. Not the house you live in now. There we go. So once we have everything in order, let me get rid of my paper. I'm just going to warm up the iron, and you'll use your bigger iron because it's heavier. I have my little one here because I don't quite have room enough for the whole iron, and it would probably cover the whole thing. So if my hand was your big iron, I'm going to stop. I want part of my iron off this edge, and I'm going to count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then I'm going to move up here. Then I'll come down. But you notice I'm off a little bit. And I'm going to overlap a little from each place as I go, counting to 20. And then I would flip it over and do the other side. At this point, you shouldn't have any issue with your steamer seam sticking through. But if you want to be on the extra safe side, make sure you get your applique pressing sheet out and use it that way. And you're going to count the same exact way. Before you start, make sure you check your applique pressing sheet to make sure there's no residual glue from another time, because you'll end up ironing that onto the top of your fabrics, and you don't want to do that. So let me get the iron. And so I'm going to see how I'm part way off. And I'm not going to count to 20 now because you'll fall asleep on me. But I'm just going to show you how I'm going to work my way down. And I would stop at every point and count to 20. When you go to stitch on your sewing machine, you're going to be using a top stitch 80-12 needle. I recommend for a project like this, especially if you have a embroidery machine, is use your embroidery sewing machine thread because you get lots of colors probably, and it's shiny and pretty, and it's a little bit thicker, so it shows a little bit more. If you find when you're stitching, if you find that your needle is getting gummed up a lot, then you haven't ironed this enough. So bring it back over and do it again. Okay? Check the bottom of your iron. If you have a lot of dots and indents where the steam is, those spots are not doing any fusing. So you might have to overlap more. My bigger iron, probably the first half, is all holes and indents. So I have to remember not to use that part. In some cases, they go all the way down. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. You would just move your iron over a little less often, keep it a little closer together to keep track of that. And don't forget to flip it over and do it again, count to about 10. And you should be ready to stitch. So let's get stitching. Before I forget, you do not want to fold up your applique pressing sheet. This smaller one sometimes comes in a bigger cardboard holder. You could leave it in that. But what I do, and I'm looking around because I had mine in my hand 2 minutes ago. This is not a paper towel roll. It's heavier than that. So I believe this was from some stabilizer that I finally used up. But I'm just going to roll it up on there. Okay, and I just got a little elastic thing. Oh. I should probably have one that's just a tad bigger. Because I have to fight with it. There we go. Oh. And just keep your applique pressing sheet like this. It will last a lot longer. Okay, so let's get ready to sew. Okay, I just want to take a quick minute to show you. In this case, I'm going to use the blanket stitch. And I wanted you to see what it looks like. If you have the Solaris, Destiny, Elissimo, it will be under the Q tab. On my machine, it's Q14. But you just want to look for the one that says blanket stitch. And you can see how it runs straight along the right and bites, which means it's going to the left. And that part of it will be on your applique fabric. Okay, I'm going to be using my candle wicking foot. And you can see that there's a space all the way up to the visually for you to be able to see as you're going along and your needle comes down. You can see exactly where your needle's coming down. This isn't a foot that comes with your machine. It would be an extra foot. But that's what I use. They also make this sort of a version in clear plastic. It's called the open toe applique foot. Don't confuse it with the open toe foot. The open toe foot has a spring on it. It's made for free motion. So it should say, I believe it's open toe applique. But again, this is the candle wicking foot. And that's what I'm going to use. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch around the door. Now the door, I will want to go all the way around because I don't want my house stitches going over my door. So I'm going to go all the way around with that. And I thought it would be an easy one to, a quick one to show you. And I meant before when I said I'm going to thread I don't know if I said thread my needle, but I need to thread my whole machine before the needle. So I'm all set to go. And I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and start at the end. A lot of times I don't. So I'm going to I'm going to put my foot down first. Then hopefully I can reach around here. I'm going to lift my foot until I see that my needle's at that end. And what I want to do is I want to run my stitch outside, but right at the edge of my door. So think of it as the needle would be rubbing against the side of the door, but the actual stitch is not on the door. And let's see if I can show you. And I know sometimes the focus will go in and out as I move my hand, so hopefully we can get it done. But the first thing I'm going to do, if you have the laser that comes down, then use your laser to see where your needle's going to fall. But I'm just going to go ahead and just bring my needle down using my hand wheel on the right side of my machine so that I know it's going to touch right where it's supposed to. In this case, since we're going all the way around, if I started up here a little ways, if I'm going to come all the way around, I would come over my stitches, so I wouldn't lock my stitches when I start. But in this case, I'm starting at my edge, so I'm going to go ahead and lock my stitch. Okay, so we need to pay attention to how this stitch works. And what's going to happen is it's going to go forward, back, forward, bite. Forward, back, forward, bite. Because as we come to this end, we don't want to turn the corner when the needle's in the door fabric, because when it comes out of the door fabric, it'll be in an odd place. So I think you'll see as we go along. And this is a case of take your time. If you need to turn your speed down on your machine a little bit, if you're a little heavy-footed, you might want to do that. If you have the dual pedal on your machine, I have my dual pedal. I have the big pedal set for single stitch. So when I touch my foot to the front of my big pedal, it will only take one stitch no matter how long I hold my foot down. And that comes in handy when you're getting close to a corner or a turn, because you know how it is when you touch the pedal and you only want to go one stitch and you end up going like 3. So we're already locked and we're going to go ahead and start. I'm trying to go slow enough you can see it, but can you see how it goes over? And it's forward, back, forward, bite, forward, back, forward, and then over to the left. Hope it doesn't make you dizzy. You might need to turn your volume down because I know the machine can be noisy. And you'd have your hands right up here and your eyes on watching the needle, so that the needle, when the needle comes down on the right to go straight, it wants to be at the edge of the foot. And you'll see, because I did this in yellow, you'll be able to see it. So we're coming to the corner. Forward, back, forward, bite, forward, back, forward. Now, I'm right at the corner. So let me see if I can get you in there. Hold on. I turned the light down on my machine. Well, I went the long way around. There, you can see a little better now. So can you see? I'm at the corner. So I'm only going to turn part way. And it's going to bite into the fabric. And then forward, back, forward. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish turning. So let me go slow again now that the light is bright and see if you can see. It's forward, back, forward, bite. Forward, back, forward. Okay? I'm coming to the corner again, so I want to pay attention. Not that I wasn't paying attention before. And I made it to almost to the corner, close enough. So I'm going to turn it a little bit so I get the bite in the corner. And then I'm going to go forward, and I'll show you afterwards how it is going to, that forward one is going to go across the very edge of the pointy edge of the door. And normally this will be about the speed I would go. Faster sewing doesn't make better sewing. I'm going to speed up a little bit just so you're not too bored. I'm coming down to my corner again. I'm going to turn it halfway. And then I'm going to lock my stitch. Okay, so let's see. Oh, get this out of the way. So there's our stitching. There's our corner. And see how that stitch on the corner comes in at the angle? And you might not get that exactly every time, but try your best. Okay, let's go back to the work table. Okay, so we know that we want to do our chimneys before we do our roof. When we do the windows, doesn't matter because there's nothing in the way. So I would start here. Now, depending if you're going to use the same thread for your house or not. If you're going to use a different color thread for each section, so start here around, after you've done your chimneys, around, down, come down, and it's biting into this fabric. When you do the front of what do we call this? Around the doorway, we're going to start here. Come up, down, and across. So you'll actually be stitching with both threads about in the same area on the straight stitch part, or side by side. It won't matter. It'll look pretty either way. So there's our little door. Okay, so I had a little sliver of background showing through, but I knew the thread because I'm using the 40 weight thread. It's machine embroidery thread would take that up. And don't forget, you need to come around this inside. So when we start here, coming around, down, around, up, around, and down. Okay? Again, if you get a lot of gumming on your needle, make sure that you come back and press this again. You'll know pretty much right away. You can also feel the edges before you start. Make sure it's glued down. And you will clean your needle off. You can use a Q-tip in alcohol. I just kind of run my what little I have a fingernail on it, because you might get a little gumminess, but you shouldn't get a lot. If you get a lot of gumminess, it's going to hold on to the thread, and you'll have stitches that aren't there, or they look like V's, because the thread is hanging onto that little gluey area. So after you finish a section, just run your finger on your needle or a little Q-tip and alcohol. Just give it a second to dry, and then do the next section. Okay? So remember, chimneys first before the house. everything else you can do in whatever order you want and have fun. And remember, I didn't get any puckering, but if I did while I'm sewing, I would just take a piece of this, and yours will probably be wider because mine's like 100 years old. It lasts forever, but when it's on the sewing machine, just stick it under there. Make sure that it's out, on both sides of this area, so it's ending right about here, like this. And as you need a piece, just slide it under, and when you're done, this will tear away real easy. Just kind of hang on to your fabric and your stitches and tear away. Don't use machine embroidery stabilizer. It's way too heavy. Okay, so block number 3, little applique, little change of pace from your piecing. And I hope you enjoy this block, and we'll see you next time.